Everyone inside that Los Angeles courtroom could feel it. That crackle of electricity in the air when something truly explosive is about to happen. People were leaning forward in their seats, court reporters clutching their notepads like they knew they were about to witness something huge. And then it happened. The defense attorney almost casually dropped a bombshell that sent a shockwave through the room. Allegations that Christian Combs had been targeting underage guests at those so-called freak-offs. You could actually feel the room freeze. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, people glancing at each other, eyes wide, mouths falling open. The tension was unbearable. It wasn't just another scandal headline. This was a full-blown disaster unfolding in real time. And in the middle of it all, Christian Combs himself. His reaction was immediate and telling. He shoved his chair back with such force that the legs screeched against the courtroom floor. His face, normally polished, confident, went ghostly pale. Without a word, without even glancing at his legal team, Christian turned on his heel and stormed out of the courtroom. No attempt at grace, no apology, no explanation, just pure, raw panic. He pushed through the doors and vanished, leaving chaos behind him. It wasn't a slow retreat, it was a full-blown escape. And for the journalists there, it was the moment. Cameras clicking furiously, whisper networks exploding on social media. Everyone knew something massive had just cracked open. Christian's exit wasn't about avoiding questions. It was damage control, because the second that attorney dared to suggest that minors had been involved in these yacht parties, the story went from sleazy to criminal, darker than anyone had imagined and way past the point of easy spin.
Yeah, I ain't hear about that raid. I only heard about the, the LA and Miami raid. But you feel like the feds, they released that video over King Combs' comments.
Oh man, I've worked in law enforcement for 27 years, and I had the opportunity to see HIDA. It's a place, whereas they have the state, the feds, the NYPD, the Department of Corrections, and the state police. Yo, this place could be half of a basketball court. That's where they just got lines of computers with officers of all different people and officers just on the internet. Whoever's over that case, whoever's working that case, don't you know they saw that and took it to their boss?
It was impossible not to look for you.
Me and my dog, me and my son right here, firstborn.
Everyone wanted to be around.
His name is Bailey.
And exhausted, isn't it?
Look at him.
People just couldn't leave.
Who's your daddy?
Especially the girls. Christ.
No.
Girls. It was embarrassing.
Sit.
Hard is to get him to call somebody. He like, it's too much work. So happy birthday, Christian. Thank you everybody for coming and cheers.
So stuck.
27. 27.
It's Sunday.
It's Sunday.
We don't got no job.
We don't got no job.
And we don't got nothing to do.
And we don't got nothing to do. Cause we have to do that together.
And just when you thought it couldn't get worse, it did. Christian's lawyer, trying to get ahead of the wave, pulled out what he thought would save them: transcripts of audio recordings. Recordings made by a producer who, sensing how bad things were getting, hit record inside a makeshift studio set up right there on the yacht. Those tapes, they're gut-wrenching. One of the key voices? A young woman named Grace O'Marquez. Her testimony sent chills through the courtroom. Grace described being hired under the assumption she'd be working a family trip. Serving dinners, passing around drinks, nothing crazy. But what she walked into? A non-stop party from hell. Grace said she saw a rotating door of suspected sex workers, endless trays of drinks, and people collapsing after a single sip. After? It wasn't just a party, it was a drug-fueled nightmare, and she realized almost immediately that the tequila shots were likely spiked, and it only got worse from there.
Now a son of embattled music mogul Sean Diddy Combs has been accused of sexual assault. A lawsuit filed in LA Superior Court on Thursday accuses Christian King Combs of sexually assaulting and possibly drugging a woman in December 2022. The woman says it happened while she was working on a yacht that Diddy had chartered. This comes just over a week after homes owned by Diddy were raided in LA and Miami as part of a federal human trafficking investigation. Neither the attorneys for Combs or Diddy have commented on the new legal complaint.
In a new lawsuit, Sean Diddy Combs' second son, Christian Combs, is accused of sexually assaulting a crew member working on a super yacht. That suit was filed here in Los Angeles. Attorneys representing former yacht stewardess Grace O'Markey say she was sexually assaulted on board a yacht when she was 25 years old in December of 2022 by Diddy's son, rapper Christian Combs. They say his dad, Sean Combs, leased the yacht and had full control of its staff and the premises. O'Markey's lawyers say Combs turned what was sold as a wholesome family excursion into a hedonistic environment. They stated, quote, defendant Sean Combs fostered and encouraged an environment of debauchery. There was always a party atmosphere filled with suspected sex workers, suspected laced alcohol, violence, and sheer disrespect of women and the yacht's crew. The lawsuit also contains photos of bruises that O'Markey's lawyers say she suffered when Christian Combs violently grabbed her and attempted to force her to perform a sex act. They also included a transcript of an audio recording which they say captures O'Markey being forced to consume suspected laced shots of tequila.
The carefree clip comes just days after a yacht steward filed a lawsuit against Christian, alleging he sexually assaulted her in December 2022.
The victim in the case has produced audio recordings that allegedly shows forcing himself upon her and that he wouldn't take no for an answer.
Grace recalled that this whole horror show wasn't some random celebrity bash. It was supposed to be a family vacation with Christian and his dad.
Check this out, y'all. This is Diddy. This is my son, King Combs. I've been watching my pop since I was a kid. And I'm proud of you, boy.
And who orchestrated this so-called family trip? According to Grace, it was Diddy himself, who had personally chartered the yacht. The whole thing smelled rotten from the very start.
This lawsuit is bad for Diddy. He may be able to get out of it, but the optics are terrible when he's already facing a criminal investigation. This may be the nail in the coffin for him.
Then came the part that left the entire courtroom shifting uncomfortably in their seats. Grace testified that Christian arrived already falling down drunk. He didn't just slur his words and stumble around. No, he became aggressive. Grace said he forced her to take tequila shots even though she tried to refuse. And then he groped her, legs, chest. And it didn't stop there. She alleged that Christian tried to force oral sex on her. He fought him off, terrified, humiliated, only for him to hunt her down later that night, finding her hiding in the movie theater turned sleeping area of the yacht. He blocked the door, she said, and attacked again until someone finally intervened. The emotional fallout for Grace? Absolutely devastating. Panic attacks, suicidal thoughts, eating disorders, even seizures. She wasn't just traumatized, she was broken. Photos of bruises on her arms and the damning audio clips were entered into evidence when she filed a lawsuit against both Christian and Diddy for sexual assault, harassment, emotional distress, and premises liability.
But focusing on Christian Combs, O'Markey says that Christian Combs had been staying at a villa on the shore, but that he would come onto the yacht in the evening to party. And on December 28, 2022, Christian reportedly arrived very intoxicated and then proceeded to pressure O'Markey to take shots of tequila. She did. Christian allegedly tried to get her to drink more in the yacht's makeshift studio. O'Markey alleges that Christian kissed her neck, kissed her face, as he groped her legs, breasts, and private areas. O'Markey reportedly told Christian, quote, "Excuse me, you don't touch my legs like that. I'll move my legs where I want to. If I want to do this, then I will. You don't touch my legs like that." O'Markey then says that she told Christian she couldn't stay with him unless it was approved by a supervisor, all of whom she knew would be asleep at the time, so this was a way for her to get out of the situation. She claims that Christian said, "Who can I talk to? I'm going to say I requested you right now." O'Markey then says she responded with, quote, "Well, you can take your hand off my ass for the first thing."
O'Markey says this is what happened next. She says she tried to go back to work, but Christian ends up finding her and wants her to find him a place to sleep for the night in the yacht. So she takes him to the cinema room of the yacht. And that is when she claims Christian stopped her from leaving, groped her, took off all of his clothes, and tried to force her to perform oral sex on him. Now she says she was allegedly able to fight him off. Someone walks into the room and then she was able to leave. And she said when she reported this to the captain, according to her, the captain berates her. And she alleges that the captain may have even been paid off by Sean Combs to keep quiet about what happened. And I will tell you what's really interesting about this complaint, embedded in the complaint are photographs that purport to be O'Markey's arms with bruises on them. And that is really interesting. You don't usually see that in a complaint like this. All right, so I want to bring on right now criminal defense attorney Mauricio Padilla, friend of the show. He's represented some very high-profile defendants in high-profile cases. Good to see you once again. So I don't think we've had a chance to talk about this lawsuit, and now that the news is reporting that Christian has been served with papers here, why is that significant?
Well, it's significant because anytime that they have the opportunity to continue to remind the public of the malfeasance of Diddy, of Diddy's son, of anything related to sexually inappropriate behavior, sexual assault, it helps. It helps the government continue to, lay out the narrative of how bad Diddy was, how bad Diddy's son was. So I think it's consistent with, what they've been doing, putting it out there and really destroying his character. I'm not saying that he didn't do anything to deserve it. I'm saying it's consistent with what they're doing, whether it's the government or the lawyers that are suing him civilly.
Grace's lawyer, Tyrone Blackburn, didn't waste a second. He tore into the audio evidence, telling jurors how drinks had been spiked and he dropped yet another bombshell, hinting that there were more recordings, even worse than what they had heard. Recordings he promised to fight to introduce in court. And then, just when people thought it couldn't get any worse, Blackburn claimed that Christian and his siblings weren't just bystanders, they had a pattern, a history of participating in these freak-offs involving minors. Christian's lawyer, Aaron Dyer, sputtered back with outrage, calling the lawsuit lewd, riskless, manufactured lies, promising to have it dismissed. But you could see the seed of doubt had already been planted.
To Miss Omarkey, Jones taped this event with her. Yes, the lawsuit provides transcripts of audio recordings. And these audio recordings purportedly show, or you can hear, kissing sounds, her telling Combs not to touch her, her allegedly asking about whether she was drugged. Now, we haven't heard these tapes here on Law and Crime yet, but if they are what they purport to be, that is a huge piece of evidence. And remember, when we're talking a civil case, when we're talking lawsuits, the burden of proof is much lower than a criminal case. It's just preponderance of the evidence, more likely than not that this happened. So the civil suit accuses Christian of assault, battery, sexual assault, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. They're a big part of this lawsuit. She goes into the mental anguish that she has gone through, the emotional harm that she has suffered as a result of that. It's important in order to prove.
And the scandal didn't stop with Christian. In another massive lawsuit, rapper Lil Rod flat out named Justin Combs, Christian's brother. According to Lil Rod, Justin wasn't just present at these freak-offs. He was actively soliciting prostitutes, underage girls, and sex workers. There's even a picture, part of the court filing, showing Justin with a girl alleged to be underage. And in one incident, Lil Rod said an underage girl was brought to Diddy's mansion for what was supposed to be a listening party. Instead, it turned into yet another freak-off. Even worse, Lil Rod claimed that Diddy forced him to drink a laced shot, causing him to pass out and wake up naked next to a sex worker at 4 a.m. Justin wasn't just a bystander either. He's listed as a defendant, accused of helping Diddy run what Lil Rod described as a RICO enterprise, participating at times himself.
I think that if we're talking about additional charges and additional defendants, those are probably two of the more likely. And Christian, of course, was the subject of a civil lawsuit where there was a sexual assault allegation naming him directly. So I think if we're going to cast a bit of a wider net, people are talking about family members, other celebrities, maybe some employees like Christian Afora, but I think the most likely would be those two sons.
Why do you think it's the most likely about those two? Just because of the recordings, the allegations against him? What are you thinking?
I think so. I think obviously they're just civil allegations and those cases are going to be put on hold while the criminal case plays out. But, there is some smoke there. And obviously, there's a presumption of innocence and there's a lower standard in a civil case. But you have someone who's been named directly as someone who participated in a sexual assault. And everything else has been rumors and speculation. But here you at least have one verified complaint.
And let's talk about those freak-offs because they're way more sinister than just wild celebrity parties. According to prosecutors, these weren't just adult parties. They were choreographed sexual performances with minors involved. The Manhattan indictment describes guests being forced, sometimes drugged, into sex acts, all while cameras rolled. Christian and his brother, they weren't just standing around awkwardly. They were accused of helping recruit girls, handing out cash, stocking party supplies, and filming alongside their dad. It's a stomach-churning image, a family empire built not on music or business deals, but on systematic abuse.
I believe it was Justin, Diddy, and G walked into the bathroom. Gunshots rang out. Little Rod woke up so scared. Justin and Diddy left. Little Rod went in the bathroom, saw G out all over the place, literally called the ambulance, carried him out. It was carnage and everything, put him in the ambulance. The police showed up. Little Rod cited that in his lawsuit, and then they asked for the LAPD's report. The LAPD just released an 18-page report with no mention of any carnage or anyone that actually got shot.
There's also allegations that he actually partook in these freak-offs and potentially drugged women. This is something Lil Rod is saying. How would the feds go about proving something like that? I know that's the pattern we've seen across a lot of these civil suits, that women allege Diddy, for instance, drugged them. But now Lil Rod's also pointing the finger at Justin Combs, saying he drugged some of these women. How would the feds then go to look further into that?
Yeah, Lil Rod's lawsuit is interesting in that there are many defendants. We talked about Christina Horam, right? Some of the allegations that came out in Lil Rod's lawsuit was Christina, of course, being Combs' right-hand woman. She allegedly had the fanny pack with the drugs that were provided to the sex workers. There are the allegations directly against Justin as well. So whenever you're proving something like this, obviously, you're going to rely on the testimony of witnesses. You know, it could be an independent witness because the sex workers, even though they're participants in a sex act, they won't necessarily be charged, or I don't think they're going to be defendants in the lawsuit if the allegation is that they were forced to perform these sex acts and it wasn't just a commercial transaction.
And things only got darker from there. On September 16th, 2024, a Manhattan grand jury officially indicted Diddy. The charges? Racketeering, sex trafficking, drugging minors, using male sex workers, filming, it all. Prosecutors painted a horrifying picture, a sprawling empire of arson, bribery, kidnapping, but always coming back to the freak-offs.
I was at I believe to be one of P. Diddy's freak-offs.
Now, singer-songwriter Tania Wallace told TMZ's Harvey Levin for the Tubi special, The Downfall of Diddy, Inside the Freak-Offs. She believes she witnessed underage victims at one of Diddy's 2018 parties.
I'm looking like, are those midgets? Because people were it's people over them, like it's people trying to hide what they're doing.
Adults who are little people, or are you talking about minors?
Am I gonna get in trouble? I don't want to say I witnessed any of that crazy stuff, but we all have common sense. Little people that's not supposed to be there.
You're talking about underage people.
It's a shame.
Is this woman, Tania, is she really saying that there were minors involved in these freak-offs?
That is exactly what she's saying, Billy.
Yeah, the fact, Jake, that the government in this indictment presented evidence alleging that Sean Combs was running a criminal enterprise, and they actually named it in the indictment, the Combs Enterprise. And they said that this enterprise consisted of him as the alleged leader, his employees, assistants, staff, allegedly, that were able to procure women and alleged male sex workers to engage in performances for his own sexual gratification. Where it differs from a mob indictment, it has all the elements of putting together this racketeering allegation of all these moving pieces using resources from his businesses. But the fact that this is about an allegation of sexual gratification being accomplished by alleged human trafficking, it's one of the most unique indictments I've ever seen in this area, in the area of sex crimes.
First of all, he is not steering away from the idea of the freak-offs. They seem to be saying, these were called freak-offs, we're going to call them freak-offs, but they're not illegal.
Yeah.
But one of the charges he faces is transportation to engage in prostitution. If he's saying, yeah, I hired sex workers, but if he's transporting them and paying for them, I feel like it's going to be very, very difficult to argue he's not guilty of that charge. We talked last time about how he tried to get it dismissed from the case, basically saying it's a racist charge, but it's going in.
Yeah, so Diddy just walked into the courtroom like he normally does. He hugged all of his attorneys. He, dabbed up Mark Agnifilo. I think he was kind of searching in the gallery to see if he had family there, because when court had first started, nobody was there from his family. And I think he kind of looks forward, and I'm just speculating here, obviously I'm not in his mind, but I think he looks for people, especially his mom, to be inside that courtroom in the gallery. But today it was just Justin Combs all by himself. I think in the moment when he had first walked into the courtroom, it was a little bit after it had started, he kind of was like clearing his throat. I don't know if it was because he actually had to clear his throat or if it was to get his father's attention, just to let him know that he is here.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, but Diddy did turn around a couple of times. I don't know if it was to see if more of his family came in or to see, just to kind of like check in with Justin during that. But he seems to always kind of be more excited to see his family inside that courtroom.
And then came the day that changed everything again, March 2025. Homeland Security agents stormed Diddy's properties in a coast-to-coast raid. Los Angeles, Miami, New York, nothing was safe. They weren't just knocking politely at the door either. They seized everything: laptops, phones, financial records, piles of lubricant, even guns. It was a full-on federal takedown. And guess who got caught up in it? Christian. During the raid on Diddy's LA home, Christian got cuffed by agents. Cost $46 billion. You could only imagine the scene. Diddy's son, once strutting down red carpets, now face down against a police cruiser, handcuffed like a common criminal. Now, to be clear, they didn't press charges against Christian. Not yet. He was questioned and released. But honestly, in the court of public opinion, the pictures of him in cuffs told a whole story by themselves. Diddy's lawyers screamed that the whole thing was an ambush, a media stunt, a fishing expedition. They promised to fight back. But the truth? The headlines were brutal. One headline read, "Father indicted, son under civil suit, Combs legacy in freefall. No amount of PR damage control could fix the optics now."
The father of 7 also broke his silence on social media, posting these photos of his 17-month-old daughter with the caption, quote, "Happy Easter from baby love." Diddy's 26-year-old son, Christian, who was handcuffed and questioned during the LA raid, also posted for the first time. He says, quote, "Stop with the caps," which is slang for lies.
There's a whole public relations side of this. Diddy is going to want to put up a front of an innocent person. And sometimes the best defense is a good offense. Right now, investigators are going through the evidence that they seized. What they're really looking for are videos of the alleged sexual abuse. If prosecutors have that information, we're talking about days or weeks before Diddy is charged. He may go to prison for the rest of his life.
Inside the home, federal agents can be seen using a drone. Then the video shows Diddy's son Christian with his hands in the air, pressed against the wall, then handcuffed. Diddy's son Justin then appears with his hands on his head. The agents then appear to take him down a hallway. The release clip ends with what appears to be another man who is dragged out of the home and on the driveway by agents. Photos of the aftermath show Diddy's sons Christian and Justin on the lawn of the LA home while agents seemingly continued their search. Justin Combs' mom released a statement along with the video slamming the federal agents for the way they handled the raid. The statement reads, quote, "The overzealous and overtly militarized force used against my sons Justin and Christian is deplorable. If these were the sons of a non-black celebrity, they would have not been handled with the same aggression. The attempt to humiliate and terrorize these innocent young black men is despicable."
I'm not surprised she posted it. She has to, they have to control the narrative. And do their best to control the narrative, and frankly, that's her right. If she has that data, that to do what she wants. I don't think it helped the situation. I don't think it helped her son or Sean Diddy. I think it may have just you still have human beings you're dealing with on both sides of the table, and basically kind of amping this up. I don't think that solves anything for anybody. Also, it's a matter of, is the public going to be sympathetic to a billionaire and his problems and his issues? This isn't something that happened, in an unfortunate instance in a lower socioeconomic area of Los Angeles or New York or Cleveland. This is in Hollywood with a $50 million mansion with luxury cars out front. and dealing with a billionaire, and then they had another one in Miami. I don't think the American people or the public are like having a whole lot of sympathy for anybody right now.
What made it even more heartbreaking, or infuriating depending on how you see it, was that Christian had been trying so hard to build something separate from his father's notorious empire. His single, Can't Stop, Won't Stop, had actually made some real waves in 2022, breaking into the R&B charts. He was showing he had real talent, real ambition, and not just another rich kid coasting. He even launched his own sneaker brand, Younger Luxury, and fans were starting to believe in him. He was carving out a name that didn't just ride Diddy's coattails, but now it didn't matter how good his music was or how fresh his sneakers looked. Every post, every song, every brand drop, all tainted. Fans flooded his Instagram and Twitter demanding answers. Some backed him up. Others tore into him, calling him a predator, a fraud, a coward. And Christian, he said nothing. No live stream, no interview, no teary public statement, just silence. And after that walkout in court, that silence screamed louder than any denial could have.
Bad boy.
I was upgraded from my last whore. Risha, Keisha, and Joy. And I ain't tripping if you dip and enjoy.
Shut and Murray.
I was locked 23 and 1.
And 1.
Now I bought like 23
and 1. And 1.
What's going on? Check under that shit and all that.
Right now he getting in practice shots.
You know what I'm saying?
He getting practice shots because we got the legend in the building.
Yeah, you already know what it is, man.
Christian Combmes. King, the one and only.
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna get right into it though. Music. That's good.
Yeah, I got my new music, Legacy, dropping. It's about to be crazy.
When is dropping? Let us know some exclusive
info. On the 15th, October 15th. Right. When you see this, you know it might be out.
Nah, you gonna see it tomorrow. He working hard. This dropping tomorrow.
And Cardi's dropping soon. It's gonna be a visual.
But I keep it real. Ever since we've been in LA like 4 years, we've been running to you, like hearing that, see you grow, like from developing like artists to like just being cool. At first we met you, was like we just knew you was cool. Then you started dropping music. Like,
what role do you think it's possible Christian Combmes could play in his father's criminal case?
The government loves superseding indictments. The government loves indicting your relatives. Why? Nothing is worse. Right now, Diddy's sitting in a jail cell. What could be worse? The thought of your son also sitting in a jail cell. So if they can prove it and they have him committing crimes and they can involve him in a superseding indictment, I don't see why they wouldn't. They do it all the time in narco cases and in other cases that I've worked on. And it seems to me like Diddy wasn't or never created these broad defined lines between his children and the alleged illegal acts that he was committing. So it's completely possible that they could get wrapped up in a superseding indictment.
And the legal battles just heating up. Christian's team filed a motion to dismiss Grace's lawsuit altogether, arguing that her case was full of holes. No proper metadata on the recordings, no guest logs proving minors were present, no chemical tests proving the tequila was spiked. If the judge agreed, Grace's case could be tossed out before it ever reached a jury. But if her lawyer, Tyrone Blackburn, could show enough evidence to move forward, then discovery would open and it would be a bloodbath. Emails would be demanded, yacht manifests, guest lists, party supply orders, testimonies under oath, everything ugly dragged into the public record. The lawsuits could stretch for years, and Christian's storm out moment, it would be replayed again and again like a bad meme, a stain he could never quite scrub off. And let's be real, once you're branded in the court of public opinion, it almost doesn't matter what the actual verdict says.
Hey guys, it's Murad Muradi, daily and consistent content. Let's get straight into this video. If Christian Combmes isn't working with Diddy on the side when it comes to violating BOP rules and contacting the sons, if Christian Combmes isn't working with Kanye West, who's doing all of these crash outs and going to his house, accepting gifts from Kanye, if Christian Combmes not trying to jump Ray J or, trying to put up these happy birthday messages and dead reality TV shows, this man is also now officially being served for significant allegations of SA on a yacht that he was on.
In a statement to ET, Diddy and Christian's attorney said, "This complaint is filled with manufactured lies and irrelevant facts," adding, "We will be filing a motion to dismiss this outrageous claim." The new lawsuit comes as Diddy's former bodyguard, Gene Deal, spoke out on the Art of Dialogue YouTube channel, making new claims about Diddy's notoriously wild parties.
People know there's drugs, there's alcohol, there's loose women, there's loose men, all kind of crazy. I don't think it's only celebrities gonna be shook. He had politicians in there. He had princes in there. He also had a couple of preachers in there.
Meanwhile, back on the East Coast, the federal case against Diddy is barreling full speed ahead. Mark your calendars. May 5th, 2025, that's the trial date. Federal court jury selection is looming. Prosecutors have already lined up at least 5 accusers ready to take the stand, including Cassie Ventura, who settled her own explosive lawsuit against Diddy in 2023. And prosecutors aren't stopping there. They want what's called propensity witnesses, people who can testify that Diddy didn't just have one bad night or one bad incident. They're going to argue that Diddy had a pattern, a lifestyle built on manipulation, abuse, and power plays. Christians freak out in the LA courtroom. It may not be official evidence in New York, but you better believe it's feeding the public narrative. It paints a family dynasty not of hip-hop royalty, but of systemic abuse. For Grace, this lawsuit isn't just about getting a payday, it's about justice. It's about forcing the world to look at what powerful people get away with and finally saying no more.
A legal drama, once again facing Sean P. Diddy Combs, who's already the subject of a federal investigation. Just yesterday, Christian Combs, Diddy's 26-year-old son, was named in a new lawsuit alleging sexual assault by a woman working on a yacht in 2022. Sean Combs is being sued for premises liability as the person who chartered the yacht and for aiding and abetting his son in the alleged assault. Well, here's the deal. Right now, anything associated with P. Diddy is considered cancerous. He could be guilty of the allegations that have been levied against him. His son could be guilty of the allegations that have been levied against him. But the reality is that even if they're not guilty of such things, their name has been tainted severely. And usually something like this happens when you create enemies in the wrong places. Usually it's not just a byproduct of your act or your actions. There's something else that's going on here. But you've seen people get accused of things a lot of times. But the tsunami of things that are coming in the direction of P. Diddy and his family appears immense.
And honestly, this entire mess leaves us drowning in question. Can Christian ever clear his name after that walkout of shame? Will the public ever see him as anything but an extension of Diddy's empire of darkness? And the most sickening question of all, if minors really were at these freak-offs, how did no one stop it sooner? How many people look the other way because of fame, power, and money? If you've been following this jaw-dropping, heart-wrenching saga, make sure you hit like, subscribe, and drop your rawest thoughts in the comments below. Was Christian's dramatic exit a sign of guilt? Or just a young man trying desperately to protect what's left of his future? And either way, we're not done yet. Not by a long shot. We'll keep digging through every court record, every sealed filing, every bombshell leak until the final verdict is in. Thanks for riding this roller coaster with us. And trust me, the next twists are going to be even wilder.